Organization.
So these are the programs and these are the sites that I used for the students. I didn't want the students just turning on the computer and saying, "Hi, my name is Taro, and I'm going to talk about," because nobody listens to radio like that. Radio always has a little something going on in the background to keep your attention attached to it. As I said, Audacity was our editing program, but the other things, no, mine's doing. Yes. The music is very important for podcasting, and so these sites give you the opportunity to get for free, not stealing, but really free, as long as you give credit to who wrote the music and who performed the music. PodSafe Music Network, music.podshow.com, because the bands are getting a little bit of exposure. That's the way to go. Oh, it's there?
Yes.
Beautiful. This is one of the clips. And my students would use this as what they call bed music, and they talk over it a little bit, just like I'm doing right now. And then on to CC Mixter. CC Mixter works very well for sound effects, things like doors slamming or a spring going, things like that. And I'm pretty sure there's not an audio clip. No, good. I also required my students to release their podcast under a Creative Commons license. How many people are familiar with Creative Commons? Ooh, one. Okay, Creative Commons is like an alternative to copyright. Strictly speaking, when you put stuff out in copyright, nobody else can touch it, nobody else can use it. This allows people to have what they call a limited license. So they can change it, but they have to tell people how it was, well, not how it was changed, but they have to tell people where it came from so that they can follow it back. And that was very important because generally we didn't use all of the music. We used just a little piece of it, and I didn't want the bands and stuff to get really angry with me. So, this one does have a clip. This music is, yes. This guy's name is Jeff Smith. I believe he is in New York, but I'm not positive. And he releases almost all of his music through Creative Commons so that people can use it so he can get his name out there. Eventually you will hear from him. PodsafeAudio.com is another place to get free music really well. Magnitude.com, I like this one a lot because Magnitude also sells the music, so it gives you the option if your students want to buy the music for themselves, they can, or they can use it for free on their podcast. And again, all of these have a Creative Commons license. I know I'm going through it really fast, but I want to be able to answer some of your questions later on. So,
for film, okay, I talked about putting them into groups of 4 to 6. You do this to give them different roles. The different roles that I would give them, first would be the director. The director is in charge of the camera angles, the controlling artistic vision of the project. There would always be a producer. The producer is in charge of making sure everyone gets there on time, everyone is speaking English, just the boss of the whole show. Next one would be the editor. And really, the editor is the hardest job because it takes the longest. They say roughly for every minute of film, it takes about an hour to edit. Okay, so keep that under advisement. And finally, the documentarian. And the documentarian would use that extra camera. Now, the documentarian is very, very important. They are my eyes and ears of the shoot. They have the second camera, and they're filming the behind the scenes, the making of. That's how I know they're using English outside the classroom to get this project done. They are my spy. And so I can watch the making of and say, okay, they're speaking 70%, they're speaking 50%, they're speaking 20% outside the classroom. Now for me, in Japan, monolinguistic community, even 20% English outside the classroom is a success.
Huge.
My students are speaking around 70 to 80. Now that's the high level. They have the skills to communicate with each other. But If they didn't have that camera there filming them, 0. Now, if you're doing it in the States and you have a multilingual classroom, you don't really need the documentarian because you try to separate people from the same country into the groups as much as possible, And so but that greatly helps. You don't have to worry about it as much. If you have a large class and you want to do groups of 6, the other 2 people will be in the crew, or they can be the actors, or the narrators, whatever extra roles or assignments you need. Okay, accountability. Quantity of language production. I have, and you have this in your handout, production log sheet. So every day that they film or work on it, talk about it, they have to write it down. I have them write down how long they took, how much English they think they spoke, so they're self-assessing themselves, and where they worked, whether it was in my office, whether it was off campus, where it was. And so it makes them accountable for this. I used to have the producer do it for the whole group. It works much better. You give one sheet to each student, and they're responsible for their own time. At the end of the week, you can collect them and just check each other's in the group and see. Okay.